Hello and welcome to the first Talk72 podcast. I'm joined here today by Jonny from the Bradford Chicken and Loose podcast and Liam, who's one of the Bristol City representatives for the Terrace Talk podcast. So let's jump straight into it. So firstly, we've got a section on fans' comments from our recent Twitter posts. Just get our thoughts and opinions. So firstly, we've got an EFL away end price cap. Do you agree that it should be placed, and what price would you really go for? Start with Liam.
I'll go with the old 20 is plenty. I think Reading, when they were in the Championship, they proposed it to quite a few teams. I think it was Reading, where they pretty much turned around and said, "We'll set our away ticket price for £20 if you do it in the return fixture." I know as a Bristol City fan, we pretty much turned it down straight away, which I think I can see why the club want to maximise profits and stuff. But at the same time, the price of things, I think it's killing it for fans these days. So I think, personal opinion, I'd love it to be capped at £20 for an away game. Premier League are doing it. Obviously, they've gone with a £30. I mean, even that £30 would be sufficient, especially when you go to. I know Leeds isn't in there this year, but places like Sheffield Wednesday, where sometimes they were charging near on £50 for an away ticket. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Leeds was one of the most expensive ones I found out when I went up there. For me, my lad, and my partner's boy, a couple of years ago, it was near over £100 just for the tickets, nearly. So yeah, by the time we've driven up from Wiltshire, it's a long old day and expensive. So yeah, I'm all for it personally. 20 is plenty.
Yeah. What's your opinions, Jonny, on the topic?
I agree with Liam there. It's 20 quid's plenty. We've been to games. I think Wimbledon last season in League Two was like £28. I think Crewe as well, that were like 20 odd quid. I think they were like 26, 27 quid.
Yeah.
It's a joke how fans get treated. Obviously, you drive or you go on the train and stuff like that, you need to get your money's worth. But with ticket prices, especially League Two and probably League One, we'll see now. But League Two, prices need to be lower. Everything needs to be lower because it's a joke of a price and fans are getting priced out of games.
Yeah, an excellent point. And I also think that the whole day, if fans are like getting the train, even to London now, you could be spending up to £100 on a train ticket. I think it's ridiculous and I think it's, obviously, as Liam said, you can see why they're trying to maximise profit, but if football's for the fans, it's not particularly what you'd be looking to pay, this £30-40. The second question from the comments was about VAR, how it's been used in the Championship playoff final, and obviously, I don't know if you saw, but in League One, where Charlie Coleman scored a goal that was miles offside, do you think that should start being implemented into the Championship, Liam?
No, not for me. I hate watching. I mean, I watch all football when it's on TV, and like I said, my partner's lad is a Liverpool fan, so I unfortunately have to watch all those games.
Yeah.
For me, the VAR, it kills the complete enjoyment of the game. Personally, I love nothing more. I was there when we played Sheffield United in the playoffs. So I was at I couldn't go to the away game because it's sold out, but the home game I was there and they scored a goal. Turned out to be offside. I can't remember, it was Sadie Peck or whatever his name was offside.
Yeah.
He basically blocked Jason Knight from clearing the ball off the line. And obviously Sheffield United fans are all cheering. As soon as the linesman flag goes up, all the cheers like, "Hooray!" And it shuts them up. For me, that's what football is about. You put VAR in the game, you can't celebrate goals. You're having to wait 5 minutes for it to be confirmed.
Yeah.
Absolutely kills enjoyment of the game for me personally. It's becoming too Americanized for my liking. You look at NFL, there's about 3 seconds of play and then 5 minutes of nothing. We're going to start bringing it in, keep it in the Premier League. Even in the Premier League, I think it's a joke having it there. Was the stat they put out, was it like 97% success rate in their decisions before VAR was brought in. Sorry, I can live with 3% of a mistake. So yeah, for me, it's a big fat no. If they start bringing VAR in, I'll just stop going to games. I just won't enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. As you said, you score a last minute winner on an away day. It's the pure celebrations, but obviously then you might be waiting an extra 4 or 5 minutes just for it to be chalked off. Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think, Jonny, on the VAR topic?
Controversial, but we need it. We need it because the stuff I've seen following Bradford and same with probably Liam and yourself, stuff happens in League Two, or especially last season League Two, and the referee did mistakes. It's like Smallwood's tackle, I think, against Swindon. 99% of the time he does tackles like that. And if VAR was in there, I personally think it would have been a yellow card, and it would have changed the whole game for Bradford. Because we're 2-0 up, and that's sending off, obviously, the sending off cost us. With VAR in, it might have reversed it. It might have had a yellow card. But then looking back even further, like in Bradford's history, when Bradford played Millwall, people have been saying the goal was offside. If VAR was in there, Bradford could have won that game. VAR needs to be introduced into League One, League Two, and probably Championship as well. Because I know in the Premier League, it's ruining games and stuff, but if like League One and Championship and League Two teams could get like a smaller version, I think it's cheaper to get. And just basically, they could like beta test VAR, and we could fine tune it for the Premier League. Stuff needs to improve in League One and League Two and Championship, and I think VAR might do it.
Yeah, I personally think, agreeing with that point, I think, the VAR technology is there and it can be worked, but I think it's actually personally the people that are doing it. You know what I mean? Like the people that are using it, because obviously we heard Luis Diaz, the thing about Tottenham. That was wasn't really a mistake with the VAR itself. I think it was, the referee, a miscommunication, which obviously virtually cost the game for Liverpool. Yeah.
I said the only thing, I mean, Jonny made the comment about maybe you can introduce it maybe for those scenarios with red cards and things. We had one against Oxford.
Yeah.
Joe Williams won the ball fair and square. He's gone in hard, but his trailing leg has caught Will Volks and he's thrown himself on the floor, but he's got up straight away. It's only because the players around the referee got a red card, but it was Oliver Langford, and he loves to show a red card as soon as he can. Yeah. He will do. But I'm still against it. I'd rather have a talking point that the referee made a mistake rather than have a talking point of Christ, we had to wait so long for the VAR.
Yeah.
You probably had time to go down onto the terrace, from the terraces onto the concourse, get a beer, go to the toilet, come back, and they're still making decisions. It takes far too long. So for me, stay away from it completely. I just couldn't get on board with it.
Yeah.
Call me old fashioned, but I prefer the emotion of the game to being robots and having to wait on decisions because someone's watching it 100 miles away in a little room. It's not for me at all.
Yeah. Totally agree with your side. So yeah, that's the comment section. Let's say a big thank you to Andrew Jackson for the comments, and we'll put a post before the next podcast. So if anyone has any points you'd like to introduce, do so. So the next part, we're going to do specific club segments. Liam is obviously a Bristol City fan. Jonny is obviously a Bradford fan. So firstly, we'll start with Liam and the manager situation at Bristol City. Firstly, out of the current odds, who would be your personal favourite to take over Bristol City?
See, I was looking at it again today. I've actually jotted down some notes about it. So looking at the odds today, they seem to be changing every day. At the moment, you've got Gerhard Struber Guys, I don't know if you know, he was at Barnsley for sort of 3/4 of a season nearly.
Yeah.
He seems to be favourite at the moment, 2-1 favourite. Looking at his records, his last 2 jobs have been Red Bulls Salzburg and FC Köln in Germany. Now, controversially, he got sacked at Köln. They were cruising the league. Well, I didn't say they're cruising the league, but they got promoted. But he got sacked after, I think I've got it jotted down here actually, 1 win in 5 games.
Yeah.
He got sacked. They drew against a team that had already been relegated. So it was a bit of inconsistent form from him. So, and that seems to be quite a pattern in where he's been. You look back over his reasonings for dismissal, and a lot of them do say it was down to a bad run of form. Whether he'd be a good fit, I don't know. Barnsley fans seem to, when the rumour came out, Barnsley fans seem to say it was the best football they've seen at Oakwell, and so on that side of things, he could come in and do well, but you don't know with an relatively untested manager in English football. The other names are on there. You look at Rob Edwards.
Yeah.
Not 3-1 for him for odds. Hasn't had a job since January. Obviously, won League 2 with Forest Green, got them promoted, then took the Watford job. And let's face it, anyone who goes to Watford's going to get sacked.
Yeah.
Look at Tom Cleverley. So that on his record, it's not particularly great that Watford sack him, but they sack everyone. But then you look at what he did at Luton. He took over Luton when Nathan Jones went to Southampton. Took them up via the playoffs. He had a bloody good go when they're in the Prem as well. Came down, a very indifferent form. His record last season wasn't particularly great, and it cost him his job. So whether he's unemployed, but he's rumoured to be on Middlesbrough's shortlist as well. So obviously we've known that Liam Manning was going since, well, the rumours came out after the Sheffield United second leg in the playoffs. And what's that, 2.5, 3 weeks ago nearly?
Yeah.
So they've known this long, and we've had no communication from the club regarding it. The only communication we've had was when Liam Manning left for Norwich, which personally I think is absolutely shocking. It's not very good communication from the club at all. But then you look at other names that are on the list. You've got Dave Chandler from Stockport again. He's got a fairly decent record. Obviously started at Colwyn Bay, what was it, AFC Clyde, then Hartlepool, Stockport. He's flying with Stockport. Obviously got to League One playoffs, lost to Leyton Orient.
Yeah.
Speaking of Leyton Orient, Richie Wellens is on the list as well. He's 4-1.
Definitely.
See, I think that'd be a great appointment. You look at the things he's done with Orient. He's gone in at Orient. A good friend of mine is a season ticket holder at Orient, and he said he was given a timeline of where they want to be at certain stages, and he's like 18 months ahead of where they want to be. So, and he narrowly lost out getting them promoted back to back. They obviously won. Well, they didn't win League 2, but they got promoted from League 2 this season into League 1. Play a final following a promotion. I think the club would be silly not to contemplate looking at that. So that's another one. Obviously, then you got names that are out there, completely out there. You got Stephen Gerrard and Mike Carrick. Carrick obviously just being sacked from Middlesbrough. Not particularly great season for him there, but again, it's one of those you can't be fantastic all the time. And Gerrard doesn't really set the world alight for me. If you look at what he did at Villa, he wasn't particularly great at Villa. He went to Saudi Arabia, wasn't particularly great over there either. Went to Rangers, but I think any one of us could manage Rangers and challenge in that league up there.
Yeah.
It's just a 2-horse race. So out of all of them, I'd like Edwards or Wellens personally. But until we get communication from the club, we don't know what's going on. They have said they're looking to appoint someone by the end of this week, but we're now Tuesday night into Wednesday, and we've still not heard nothing. So we don't. None of us. It's just a guessing game. I mean, you look further down the list, you've got names like John Mousinho on there. 16-1. You've got Lee Johnson to come back. He's just taken a job in Belgium, and So I think people are just sticking money on people for the fun of it. Dean Holden's on there. He had a stint in charge of us for a few months and got sacked.
Yeah.
And then you've got our goalkeeping coach, Pat Mountain, on there as well. Why the hell would they even contemplate that one? So I think people are just pulling names out of the hat for the fun of it. Like I said, if it was me, I'd be looking at Edwards or Wellens. But one name I'm surprised it isn't on that list or high up on that list is Ruben Sellers.
Yeah.
Obviously, he got sacked. I think he got wrongly sacked by Hull. But again, they've done that recently. They sacked Liam Rosenior at the end of last season.
Yeah.
And he's flying at Strasbourg. So it's one of them. We until the club come out and say anything, it could be a number of people. I just hope they haven't put all their eggs in one basket. I hope they have actually had interviews with 3 or 4 different people and getting different ideas of things. And but yeah, I suppose it's just a waiting game to see what happens.
Yeah. So obviously, first, I think my opinion with Shrewsbury's, I think, firstly, I thought he might be all right. He plays good football, but I think what we've noticed, especially with Barnes, I think he got them into the playoffs, but it's that final push, as you said, with the FC Colne job, I think it's those pressure games when it comes to the end of the season, the big games, and I don't think he's really pushing on and, got his team really up for it. But yeah, I saw, obviously, my team, Wigan versus Leyton Orient, at the start of the season that we lost at home. And I think, Richie Wellens, he plays good football. And actually, I went down to the bottom of my stand, which is near his dugout. And last season, when he got mid-table, he said, Wigan fans, giving him a bit of grief. And he said, with your squad, I'd be pushing for the top 6. And, he's done it with the Leyton Orient squad, which has bundled plenty of players together. And I think, in my opinion, I think if he could push for the Bristol City job and bring a player like Jamie Donnelly into the system on loan, I think could be quite successful there.
You've just got to look at what he did last year. Was the beginning of December, they were floating around the sort of real bottom end of the table. I know they had quite a few injuries. Like I said, one of my friends at work, he's a season ticket holder up there. So they had a bit of a injury. I think there was a bit of an injury crisis there around sort of Christmas time. But from December onwards, he won 22 from 31 games.
Yeah.
And got on right. Obviously, they finished 6th. In the end, they finished 6th by 3 points, and then Reading lost on the final day. So I people were saying, he didn't do very well at Doncaster. He didn't do very well at Salford. Again, Salford's one of those teams. They've had 9 managers in 8 years since the class 92 took over. I think it's 9 and 8. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. I haven't really looked at it, but they've got a habit of pulling people in and getting rid of them after 18 months or so. And apparently, some Doncaster fans were saying that when Wellens went at Doncaster, the place was a mess. So anyone would have failed at that job. So really, looking at those two, a lot of City fans have said no to him. A lot of people, a few have rumbled, said it'd be worth looking at. I think it's because he managed Swindon as well. I think people are a bit put off by that. But they're irrelevant. They're nothing to us. They have been for 10 years. So I think, if it was me, out of that list, I'd be interviewing probably Struber, Edwards and Wellens. And like I said, I'd be looking at Sellers as well. But I did hear a rumour he was in line for the Plymouth job, unless they've appointed anyone. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But yeah, those are the ones I'd be looking at.
Yeah. So next point about Bristol City is actually due to, so if you got a manager like Wellens in with a 4-2-3-1 system, what type of players would you be looking to really, put as the core and, build the recruitment around?
So looking at last season we didn't play 2-3 or 4-2-3-1 under Liam Manning. We played pretty much a 3-4-2-1 system. He always favoured the 3 at the back, which to me we didn't have the right squad for it. We
Yeah.
didn't have any natural wing backs as such. I mean, we ended up
Yeah.
playing. We signed a Japanese lad called Yu Hirakawa. Now he was brought in to play the 4-2-3-1 system. He's a winger. He's an old-fashioned winger that used to get the ball down and try and take a defender on and make things happen. He definitely seemed that sort of player when he first came in. He ended the season playing wing back, and he looked completely uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah.
The same with Sam Bell on the left hand side. Sam Bell's an attacking player. For me, his position would be a left wing or up front. It's a strange one. You got to look at the recruitment we made last season. Obviously, made Scott Swan as a permanent deal. He's a Liam Manning player. He had him at MK Dons. He chased him. We got him on loan from Burnley. Obviously, the tail end from January, the season before that, just gone. And then we obviously signed him permanent in the summer last year. But he came in to play number 10, and then Manning was playing him on the left wing. He was completely out of position. He was completely useless. So when Manning switched to the 3-4-2-1, it seemed to be Twine and Anis Mehmeti were those two players in behind the striker.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, it just completely balanced the team completely. Obviously, we signed Sinclair Armstrong from QPR and a French lad called Fali Miulu from a team in Austria. Now, they were brought in to challenge for that spot up front. And we ended playing Naki Wells, and that wasn't going to be the thing for the year.
Yeah.
So, Naki Wells was looking to be that, or I don't think Naki Wells was looking to be that bit part player, because I personally think he's getting better with age. And obviously, Jonny, I can see him smiling down there. He's come through at Bradford, didn't he? He made his name at Bradford. So I Naki Wells ended the season being our number one striker, and I don't think that was the aim of the club in the summer last year. But for this year, I think it's hard to say about recruitment at the moment because it all depends on who comes in. I can't see another manager coming in and sticking with the three at the back because we haven't got the squad for it. Edwards did play. I think Edwards played predominantly three at the back when he was at Luton.
Yeah.
But I think he played two up front. I could be completely wrong. And I think that was where my downfall was. There's no for the season we had. We finished sixth, massively overachieved.
Yeah.
Budget we had apparently was the fourth lowest budget in the league. We used the least amount of outfield players in the league because of injuries, and I think our squad was 24 players. So we used a real small knit of players, and when players were injured, we had players playing. I mean, the Sheffield United game, we had one fit centre back. We played a left back at centre back. We played a right back at centre back. The only fit centre back we had was Zach Viner. And we were playing, like I said, we played a winger at wing back, so it was just totally unbalanced. And I don't. It depends who comes in. Until anyone comes in and we know the sort of system that he wants to play or whatever, I don't know about recruitment. But what I will say is there's a couple of players there I would like to see go. Scott Twine being one of them. I just don't see the hype with him at all.
Yeah.
For me, he spends more time throwing himself on the floor trying to win free kicks than he does playing the game. He's either on the floor or he's moaning at a referee getting booked. Don't get me wrong, though, he has flashes of, he does have a flash of brilliance. Majority of the time it is from a set piece, but other than that, I don't think he brings much to the team. So if he goes, I can't say I'd be that bothered. Another one is Anis Mehmeti as well. For all the good he does, he's such a frustrating player to have. He makes the wrong decision more often than not.
Yeah.
And he has one good game in four. And at championship level, to be a top championship level player, you can't be that inconsistent. But like I said, for recruitment wise, it all depends who comes in. People are saying that apparently our owner, Steve Lansdowne, said there's no money to spend. But he hasn't. When he interviewed him for the Sheffield United game, he said there's no secret we will be in for a centre forward, a goal scoring centre forward in the summer. Yeah. So he will be people saying he didn't really back man, and he spent nearly £10 million last year, which is a lot of money for us.
Yeah.
He signed 7 players. Their plan was to only sign 4 and ended up bringing 7 in. So come January, we didn't sign anyone because we overspent in the summer. So it's an interesting, and obviously I think a lot of it comes down to if we can keep hold of Jason Knight.
Yeah.
Personally, I can't see it happening. I think if a club comes in with a decent offer from the Premier League, I think he'll be one of the ones we'll sell on. And obviously, money come in. The talk of obviously Semenyo plays for Bournemouth now, but we've got a 20% sell-on fee of his future fee.
Yeah.
So the talk of him going for 70 million, we get 12 million of that straight away. So it all depends on what we've got to spend and who comes in. Until the club hurry up and do something, we ain't gonna know. So yeah, that's recruitment. It's a non-question at the moment, unfortunately.
So yeah, touching on that, obviously, I think Max Bird, Jason Knight would be an excellent partnership in the 2-6 and in a 4-2-3-1 formation. But as a Bristol City fan, how good and how far can Jason Knight go?
Honestly, I think he could play at level Premier League.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a perfect. Thomas Frank's obviously going to Tottenham from Brentford, but he'd be a perfect type of Brentford player. Obviously, Bournemouth, we seem to be a feeder club for Bournemouth. But the good thing about Jason Knight, you look at his. I'm not massive statistician. I like to watch football with my eyes. All these, he's got 17 goals and 14 assists. I couldn't care less. I watch it with my eyes. It doesn't. You can be the best goal scorer in the world, but it doesn't make you a good footballer. But you look at Jason Knight. His ball, obviously winning back possession of the ball, he was one of the highest in Europe. At one point, he had 212 recoveries of the ball, and he was the best in Europe. And he played every single minute of the season this year. Every single game, he played every single minute. So he's never injured. So if he can carry on like that, I don't see why he can't go. I don't think he'd be like an Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City type player. But I think he could play for a team in and around the Europa League and Conference League positions.
Yeah.
And he's versatile as well. He can play 2 or 3 different positions. So the sky's the limit for him, I think. And he's still only 24.
So finally, before we switch over to Jonny, so if you got your ideal manager and a sensible transfer window, where's your early predictions for how high Bristol City can go next season?
I think looking at this year, we've obviously finished 6th. I think we overachieved.
Yeah.
But I think if we get the right manager in and he gets to shape the squad to how he wants, it's not going to happen overnight. It will take time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably will take 2 or 3 months to really get going. It depends how quickly the players adapt to it.
Yeah.
But anywhere 6th to 10th.
Yeah.
Top 10, I'd be more than happy with. Obviously, we were labelled the most. Us and Preston were labelled the most boring clubs in England because we're always finishing 12th, 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
But I think the man who comes in, for all the work Manning did, I wasn't. I mean, if you ever watched the podcast, I wasn't his biggest fan.
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly when he was appointed. I wasn't particularly that's a great appointment. It was more a case of we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
His problem was he didn't really have a plan B.
Yeah.
I think as long as the next man comes in if things aren't working, he can adapt in game and has a plan B around things. I think that's the biggest thing for next season. We have to improve our away form. Like we won 4 games away from home last season. It was, to finish 6th and to have that, it was incredible. But I think anywhere in the top 10 would be a good season. But it's now we've had that taste of playoff football, first time for 17 years. We're going to want it again. So I think the pressure is going to be on whoever comes in. The pressure is going to be on to get us there again. So I think as the club will want playoffs. I think.
Yeah.
But me as a realistic fan, I think anywhere in the top 10, pushing for playoffs. I would say pushing for playoffs again. That would be where I'd be aiming.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll switch over to Jonny now. Obviously, with Bradford coming off the back of an exceptional season in League Two with a virtually last second winner to win you the league. How successful were you last season in terms of the system? And Jonny, how do you think it could work in League One?
So last year, I think it was in the last after Markham, I went on my podcast and said I wanted Graham Alexander out.
Yeah.
And it's got to be said one of the worst lines I've ever said in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because I want him in now. We've obviously got promoted. But in the past, under Bradford, like Graham Alexander, we did well. We lost a couple of games. The home form was good. It was excellent, the home form, actually. I think we went about 14 games unbeaten or something at home. 13 or 14. Yeah. And then we lost that with Tranmere when Tranmere got a spawny penalty, but want a penalty. But hey, that's a different story. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're gonna. I know we've Smallwood's gone. I think it won't surprise me if he ends up at Doncaster or somewhere.
Yeah.
Or MK Don's. He's gone. We've got rid of the high earners. Vidame Oliver's gone. And then we've got rid of some rubbish players. But then we've had Max Power come in, who used to play for Wigan, your team.
Yes. Sorry, touching on Power, I think, it was 50-50 with Wigan fans, obviously, because, in 21-22 when we got promoted, he was brilliant. He finished on about 15, 16 assists. He's quite a good playmaker, but he's also, a bit of a tough tackler, got experience. I think personally for a team like Bradford, he could do quite well. Obviously, what are your opinions on Smallwood leaving? Because it kind of came as a bit of a shock to me.
Smallwood played every single game at Bradford City, and then he got sent off at Swindon. And in them 3 games, we were dire. And then he came back for the last game of the season. He did well. But Smallwood's like Marmite. You either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
I liked him as a player, but his free kicks, his corners, and his basically all of his set pieces were crap, to be fair. I can't remember how many goals he scored off the top of my head. We had quite a lot of appearances. There's a good player there. Obviously, I know he came from Hull, came to us. But his set pieces weren't brilliant. And from a midfielder, especially captain, the captain needs to set an example. And if you can't even clear at first man from a corner or even from a free kick, he's not for me. I'm part of me is glad he's gone. The rumours are I think we offered him a 2-year deal, and then the club took it away. I think he's 34 or 35. I don't remember how old he is exactly, but we need younger players at City with his experience of old and youth. So he'll probably end up wherever he ends up. Doncaster, MK Dons, might even end up at Wigan. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just glad he's gone.
Yeah. So obviously we've seen the rumours of players like Teo possibly coming back next season. I think, he'll be looking to move on probably permanently. How do you think Bradford will, approach the second, as you'd say, transfer window?
So we've had Max Power come in. We've had Joe Wright come in and Curtis Tilt as well from Salford. I've seen a couple of videos on Twitter of Curtis Tilt.
Yeah.
And he looks like he don't take crap from people. That's politely putting it. So we need a player who is strong, who can basically not go over the top, but be aggressive. We've also had Sam Walker as well, signed a new deal, 2-year deal. Fantastic goalkeeper. Like Harry Lewis, obviously, he went to Carlisle. I'm glad he went, and we got him in replacement. And then Tayo, never fall in love with a lone player. He's fresh air, quality player, and I'd really hope some miracle we get him back.
Yeah, I think I think as you touched before, also the home form with Bradford. I think it is as we're going to get in more scenes in League One. I have seen that the home form can really give you that crucial edge in League One because you need to pick up obviously most points because the gap between the likes of 5th to 12th is normally about the matter of 6 points. And obviously we saw the excellent thing, was it £5 for the tickets at Bradford, and that brings the attendance, and that can really give that push, can't it?
Yeah. Just says also we've been linked with Naki Wells. I don't know, take that as a pinch of salt. Rumours are there's us and a few other teams linked.
He is out of contract in a couple of weeks, and I think he did say in an interview recently that he'll pretty much going to wait until see what happens with the manager situation. I think if Manning had stayed and not jumped ship, I think he'd have already signed a new deal. I think he's waiting to see what goes on with the manager front. New manager might come in and not fancy him. Obviously, he's just turned 35, so he is on the latter stages of his career. And at the moment, our club's focus is on signing young players that we can develop and sell them for high fees. But personally, I'd be keeping him with us. He'd be the first player on that team sheet every week, especially how he played last season.
If Naki Wells is listening, come back home. You know where you belong.
But he will be on a wedge. I'll tell you that now. He won't be on. He'll be on a pretty penny. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of our top earners.
Yeah, our owners promised to spend money, but see what happens with that. With Naki Wells, I hope he returns and his career at Bradford.
It'd be a good fairy tale for him, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So also, just getting to the point, what do you reckon Bradford will be like in the striker department? Because obviously, Colin Kavanagh and Andy Cook, had all right seasons in League Two. But how do you think you'll approach it in League One?
So we've lost the Dame Oliver. He was a wage stealer.
Yeah.
He didn't do very well for Bradford. I think he scored like 1 goal or something, possibly 2. Wasn't very good. Tyler Smith, I think he's out of favourite. He's possibly might be leaving. And I think of the other striker off the top of my head. We're going from Total or TNS a while back ago, and then he got loaned back to them. I think it's Wilson, I think. We need some strikers. And with Dame Oliver going off the wage bill, a couple of us going off the wage bill, just thought we bring somebody in. And Cav is a fantastic player. Andy Cook is a complete goat. He's a legend at City. We did miss his goals to start off with, but then other members of the team stepped up. So yeah, we need a decent striker. I think possibly two strikers at least.
Yeah. So moving on, the next topic's just going to be generally FL. So firstly, I'd like to ask you both, starting with you, Liam. Who do you think? We touched on it in a post, but more into a deep dive. We'll go for the championship first. Who do you think could, be a real underdog next season?
I think Blackburn finished fairly strong last year. I think they went on a bit of a run. But it's hard to say. I think underdog wise, I think any teams down to about 12th. I mean, you look at the season Millwall had last year.
Yeah.
Under Alex Neil, especially after Alex Neil came in. They were right up there along with us, and no one ever predicted that. No. So I think they could be ones to keep an eye on again. I would say Borough, but they're always floating in and around it as well. But no, I think someone like Millwall might be a bit of a dark horse. It'd be interesting to see how Birmingham and Wrexham get on next year as well, because they're just going to come in. They obviously think. I mean, you look what Birmingham did last year in League One, spending £15 million on a striker that's. Or did he score 7 goals from outfield play or something like that?
Yeah.
So to spend £15 million on a striker that's like that, I can only imagine the sort of money that they try and throw around this year. But
Yeah.
they've got to be careful of the old FFP or PSR or what they call it now,
Absolutely.
because they do crack down on it, on especially more in the Championship than they do in the leagues. Leagues 1 and 2. They definitely do take more heed to it. You look at Sheffield Wednesday. They're under an embargo now. I know obviously it's a bit different. They haven't paid their players and all that sort of stuff. But Wrexham and them, I can't say they're going to be dark horses because everyone expects them just to throw loads of money at it. I don't think that's going to be a be all and end all. But it'd be interesting to see how those pair get on.
Yeah, I think personally with Birmingham, it's just they've just got to get it right, because obviously, League One, it's, if you look at the bottom half of League One compared to the bottom half of the Championship, it's £1 million in between, players. And I think I think the signing of someone like Phil Newman at centre-back, had a very strong season. I think that European market for them could really, let them thrive. And I think if they do it properly, I think definitely playoffs they might achieve. But again, Wrexham.
See, I don't think that, because I think the jump from League One to Championship's bigger than what I know they used to be a Championship club. I know that.
Yeah.
But the owners haven't experienced that.
No.
I think it's a much bigger jump. You look at League, they come down to League One, they've had probably the biggest budget in the league along with Wrexham.
Oh, absolutely.
They had the pick of the players. Yeah, we'll have the best player from there. We'll pick. But now you come into the Championship where you've got teams that have got the parachute payments. You've got, there are some big hitters in the Championship this year. You've got Leicester, you've got Southampton, you've got Sheffield United will spend money. There are some massive clubs in the Championship. So I think where they might struggle, like you said, that I think they'll stick to the European market or look at that, because they're obviously lesser known players, bit more bargains. But you look at it. You look at Richard Coney at Wickham, for instance.
Yeah.
In January, Luton tried signing him. Wickham wanted £10 million. £10 million for a League One player.
Yeah.
Now you double that for a Championship player. Look at last season, Rhian Brewster at Sheffield United, £23 million he was. So that's going to be the difference that I think Birmingham and Wrexham might think, well, hang on, there was us spending that in League One. It's now a different level in the Championship. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as what they think. Especially Birmingham. Birmingham fans are insufferable on bloody X or Twitter, thinking they're just going to run away with it again and all this sort of stuff. They live in cloud cuckoo land. That might upset a few people, but that's my opinion. Yeah,
I think, as you're saying with Stansfield, that kind of little amount of outfield goals, I do think, again, as I said, the quality of centre halves in the two leagues, I think he will struggle next season. I don't think, I think he'll get bullied out of games.
Put this way, I think if a championship team would have thought he was good enough, they'd have signed him last year. He wouldn't have been at Birmingham, regardless of what. Fulham were rubbing their hands together. Birmingham would have paid. If Fulham had their pants down, they would have paid whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you now, if a championship team thought he was good enough, he'd have been in the Championship last season. There's a reason why he was down in League One. That's because he was League One. I go back to when we signed Matty Taylor from Bristol Rovers a few years ago. That was a publicity stunt because Lee Johnson wasn't particularly doing very well at the time. So we signed him from Rovers, our biggest rivals. But he was never a Championship player. League One was his level. And I think that's going to, unfortunately, I might eat my words, but I generally think that's what Stanfield's going to be. He's a lower league player. I don't think he's good enough to play Championship football. Like I said, the defending, there's more nous to it in the Championship. It's more physical, it's quicker. Like you said, the defenders are defenders in this league now. He's playing against proper players. Not saying there's no proper players in League One, but you look at the teams. Like I said, you look at the teams that have come down from the Prem. They're all Prem. There are players in the Championship that should and could easily play in the Premier League. So it's a different it's a different kettle of fish. And I'm with you. I think he's going to struggle.
Yeah. So moving to you, Jonny. So, firstly, from what you saw in watching and following League Two last season, which team in that league do you reckon could kind of progress and be a bit of an underdog?
So I'm just gonna let the league table up again to refresh my mind. So obviously we had Walsall who ended up bottling the league.
Yeah.
After Nathan Lowe went to Stoke.
Yeah.
And then there. I think Salford are going to be up there. Obviously, David Beckham and Gary Neville have now taken some ownership of that with an American consultant. So I think they're buying players. So see what happens with them.
Yeah.
But I think Oldham are going to do well.
Oldham, yeah.
They've got an owner there, Oldham now. They've returned to the EFL. And this owner, I think, means business for Oldham. So I think they'll buy a few decent players. And I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll stay there. Like they do like a Bromley.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get on to the final segment, we just got a comment from Alan Feeney on our post before, going towards Bristol for you, Liam. It says, surely finishing 6th with a lower end of tail budget means that Bristol City job is a no-win situation for any ambitious coach with championship pedigree. Clubs with bigger budgets coming off disappointing seasons offer a far and more attractive and logical option. What's your opinion on that take?
I think, looking at our club, I think our club's an attractive place to be for the young man. Not even the young managers. I mean, we had Nigel Pearson. Nigel Pearson did an absolutely brilliant job with us. At the time we were going through a bit of we were flirting with FFP. So Pearson came in, did a fantastic job. I think what we've got is I hate the term, but people do say we're a Premier League club in training. I cannot stand that term myself.
No.
We've got a brand new training ground, Ashton Gate. I don't know if you guys have been to Ashton Gate recently. It's all pretty much new apart from the away end. The facilities are there. The infrastructure is all there. I think for a young coach that is on his way up in the game, I think it'd be a no-brainer to even have an interest. I think it'd be any coach's forefront of their mind, especially people that are unemployed. You just got to listen to Gary Johnson. Obviously, he was with us when we went up from League One, took us to the player final against Hull in 2008. He's even said any coach would want that Bristol City job because of working for the Lansdowne family. People say he doesn't back managers and stuff. He's made it no secret. He wants to take more of a back seat. He wants investment from other places coming in. But to say he's not backed anyone, it's ridiculous. I mean, like I said, last year he signed Liam Manning 7 players. He was spent near on 10 million, which doesn't sound a lot of money in this day and age, but for us, it's a fair amount of money. So I think the club, it's an attractive proposal for anyone. I think personally. Unfortunately, I think a bit of a stepping stone. You look at Liam Manning. Okay, I'm not particularly disappointed he's left, but he's left a club that finished in the playoffs for a team that finished 14th. Now, if that doesn't say, we're still not. I'd say, are we a big club? I wouldn't say we're a big club. We're the biggest club in the southwest.
Yeah,
but things can only go up. I don't think we're ever in a position where we're going to falter and go backwards. But I think any coach, any unemployed coach, even, or anyone looking to get up the ladder, I think Bristol City would be an attractive job to take on.
Yeah, excellent. So I think there's plenty of managers, especially in that list that we went on before. I think it's it's a good job, I think. Because there is a few good players in a basis there, and obviously, if you get a nice sale on Jason Knight, a bit of money to float around with you. So the final part of the podcast is going to be about the current fixture release date, which is, I believe, on the Thursday, the 26th of June at 12 p.m. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you, who do you want on the opening day, Boxing Day, and final game of the season? So we'll change up and start with you, Jonny.
I knew that would come in. So first game of the season, I would like Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Huddersfield or Cardiff. Cardiff is miles away, but Huddersfield, local rivalry. So get that over and done with. Boxing Day, I would like a nice either home or away Stockport. You don't like to go too far, do you? On Boxing Day, so it's too across an arm and leg. Do you say last game at season?
Yeah.
I would probably say Lincoln. Last game of the season. With obviously what's happened in the past, seeing Lincoln come back to Valley Parade, and the last game at Bradford City is always the memorial.
Yeah.
So it'd be good, even if we go up or we're staying in League One, just to have that, not closure as such, but have to play them there, and we could all clap and stuff like that for the Lincoln fans, because I think this is the first time we've played Lincoln in a while.
Yeah.
Since the disaster. So I can't think of what else to say really.
Yeah. Well, my personal opinion, I think, first game of the season, I'd probably like a team that's coming up, either you or Doncaster, because it's a ground I've not done yet, especially you with your good attendances. Boxing Day, I'd like to, again, agreeing with you on maybe like a Stockport, a nice close game to us. And last game of the season, all mind, going a bit of a distance, maybe a Plymouth or a Cardiff. So moving on to Liam, obviously in the Championship, got some new teams in there. Which ones would you like to go to?
I'm going to be controversial. I would like Norwich at home first game of the year, first game of the season, just to hopefully get one over Liam Manning and sort of laugh in his face a little bit. Boxing Day, there's no real close game for us. It's all travel. For me personally, our closest away game would probably be Portsmouth. I'm only an hour away from Portsmouth. Portsmouth for Boxing Day would be a good one. And then last game of the season, my best mate is a Sheffield United fan. So I would go Sheffield United home or away. I'd like that to be last game of the season.
Yeah, excellent. So that's the end of the first podcast. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week for the podcast number 2.